My confidence in my business since doing that has turned me into a 180. I was like, before you wouldn't know I even existed. And thank you so much. So much is like because of you and your education. So thank you. Oh, hi. Who am I?
Hi, I need a mirror because I do not recognize this person.
Yes.
Hello and welcome to the Studio Takeover podcast. I'm your host, Kat Ford Coates. I'm here today with Amanda Lunsford with Flaming Lily Studios based out of Asheville, North Carolina. And we live in the same area. And oh my gosh, we're both still in business. Amanda, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited that you're here. It's interesting to me because, as I work with photographers and we're all in the space of, okay, I need more consistent revenue and I need to be building and being in service and all of the things. But we all start in this space kind of a little bit blind to the business side of it. And the expectation, well, I'll shoot weddings. I love, right? And for me, it was weddings and boudoir. And so I would shoot in hotels and also shoot weddings, but I could never get more than like $1,500 for a wedding, like trying as I might. Now, granted, my work was not great. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. But you also started in the wedding space, didn't you?
I never wanted to start there. Everything just kept falling in my lap. So I was like, if this is the work I'm getting, I'll do it. And yeah, so I did weddings for the first 5 years and then COVID came. So that kind of wiped it out. And then I happened to start getting ads for Sue Bryce. And my love was always in the studio stuff to start with. I just thought it was too scary and daunting. And weddings were just like there. So I made that transition then. But yeah, I did it for 5 years first.
How were your weddings priced, like ballpark?
My first two weddings were like $500.
Okay.
And then I went up to like 1,500. My last several were 3,000, 4,000. And then by that point, I had figured out how to do like the loss leader with the albums and upsell. So then I was also getting like 1,000 to 2,000 in album upgrades.
So you were able to have like kind of that lower barrier to entry and then sell on the back end.
Yeah, it took like a lot of courses. I did like a lot of workshops and stuff and listened to educators who were like, you cannot do this. Like you have to charge at least like 3,000. Right. And then I also learned through that too, that I was priced so low. Like I was in an in-person meeting and he was like, you're $1,500. Like these people are scared. You're too cheap. They're scared to work with you. And then 2 days after I raised it, I started getting inquiries. So that was like mind blowing. Like, how do I raise my prices and that brings in inquiries? Yeah. So,
well, because there's a level of faith there, right? And I talk to photographers often, like both in the program and on my vibe check calls. They're like, but if I can't sell $400, how could I possibly charge $2,000? And I'm like, look, man, the people who are going to spend $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 are never ever going to trust you when you charge $400 because you don't value the experience and the service and the product. How could they possibly? Yeah. And it's always like a mind blow moment, right? And for you, the same occurred, right? Okay, so you're in weddings, you raise your prices and like, holy shit, it's working. People are paying me. And then COVID comes. What was your COVID experience? I feel like everybody that comes on, we have a small part of the conversation that's around like their pivot point in COVID. But what was yours?
December 31st, like 2019, I found out that I was pregnant. So it was a blessing in disguise for me to be able to just like focus on that and buy a house and like do all the stuff and then spend time with the baby. And so it ended up just being good for me. And then it gave me time to figure out what I wanted. When I started going back to weddings, I was like, I do not want to drive an hour, 2 hours away, leave my baby for 14 hours. And then you get like that wedding day hangover the next day. I was like, oh, I'm starting to really not like this year-long process either. everything aligned for me at the right time.
Well, and then you came in and started the portrait space, right? And so what, other than obviously like the technical proficiency of your camera work, what did you bring from the wedding space into your portrait world?
A lot of like how you treat the client and what the end work is for the client. So I knew that from the very initial call, like we need to talk about how do you want your images to end up? Like they're going to get lost on a hard drive. Your computer is going to crash, like something. So like we don't want them stuck on Facebook and then you only see them as a memory once a year if you even look at that part. So we're like, I'm like, you don't have an option. I'm just including an album for you. And then so I figured out how to like pre-design the whole thing and make it easier because I knew a lot of photographers were like, hey, here are your 800 pictures, favorite 20 of those, and I'll put them in an album. I'm like, no, I'll put 120. I'll max out the album. I know how the day went. I know what was most important. I went ahead and just did the whole thing for them. And I'm like, and then now from this, I got like went in person with them or did Zoom. And then I went through the albums with them and would like guided them along the process. And then, everybody, it was like one of those other blind because it was like everybody, it's like, here's $2,000. And they're just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Whereas before, when I was just like, here's your gallery and never talk to them again, it was so different.
With the prep side of it, bringing that level of service with you into the portrait space really is quite powerful because I think the most challenging piece to that puzzle is when we compare it to doing weddings, right? Like, how could I charge this much? I didn't charge this much for weddings. Like, wouldn't you say your work is just as valuable as a wedding photographer's in portrait? 51% of people aren't divorcing themselves. Like, love you, mean it, but, portrait is hugely valuable. Okay, so what is happening in your world now? Where are you finding success? Where are you finding challenges? What's going on?
I am getting a studio on the 1st. So in 2 weeks, I'll have a studio moving in.
Awesome.
That's crazy, exciting, scary, and all the things. I don't know, just like challenges right now are just that my motherhood campaign.
So the challenge is the motherhood campaign. What's happening there?
Just getting the leads. Yeah. And I'm just wondering if is there something in me that's maybe not resonating? But I'm not sure why that would be. But
I mean, I really liked your landing page for it. And I went back and looked at it again this morning. I saw, something in a story or whatever on Instagram, and I was like, oh yeah. She had a gift with purchase with that, right? But it's really about, you have to talk about it. When we talk about marketing, especially for a campaign, it's not just throw money at Facebook ads and people show up, right? It's not put $10 behind it and then wait, right? It's okay, how many different avenues can I be promoting this? And when we get into a campaign, we need to be hyping and everything about it. And one of the things that I loved about your landing page was just the transparency you brought to the table with your video that you included, that welcome, that introduction, and talking about like the time with the kids, right? And having those things and those experiences. But that also means like, okay, I'm going to do a big Facebook push. Maybe that's $100 a day. Maybe that's, for 5 days to really get that expansion going. And then you can dial it back once you start finding a stride. When we're only putting like a couple dollars here, a couple of dollars there, that's fine during testing, right? But once the test is complete, you have your winning ad. It's just about driving, but you've got to be live talking about it. You've got to be inviting people to come to it and getting people interested, right? So maybe that's reaching back out to those wedding clients. Hey, I have this great Mother's Day offer, an email newsletter, all of those things, because a campaign is a reason to do business with you that has a deadline, but also it's a big event. Like, this is special. It's not just, well, I put a landing page together and nobody's going there. So what other ways are you leveraging those marketing avenues?
This weekend I have an event, so I'm a sponsor, and it's how it feels to be a mother. So they're putting on a whole thing and trying to create a movement with that. So, and then I get up and give a speech, and I'll get the whole email list, and I've just started trying to get the email things together. So that, and then just like pushing it out. And I have been emailing some past clients, but
awesome. Yeah, just keep going. And it seems scary, like when you're in it and you're just like, nothing's happening. But people see, they just don't necessarily engage until they know they have to. Right. So it's about you showing up with that enthusiasm that really matters for them to connect to it. Because when we just leave it to one marketing avenue, then it just falls apart because there's not the sustainability for that energy there. And if you're not actually excited about it, how could you possibly market in all of the ways that you could be?
Yeah. And I know there's a lot. Everybody always says you got to see it like 7 to 8 times or whatever till like before you engage. So I just keep reminding myself, like, they just haven't seen it enough times. It'll happen. They just haven't seen it enough. But
well, they haven't. And you're one of your top 3 is accumulator, right?
That's my number 1. Yeah.
That's your number 1. So how much are you spending on your Facebook ads?
So right now it's just the $5. I was going to up that today because it's been the week. The video did not like do much. Like, you know, we were doing an A and B. So it looks like everybody loves the collage and like doesn't really care about the video. So that's really good to know. Yeah.
Do the collage, but you've got to put real dollars behind it because at $5 a day, your reach is probably what, like 1,000 people, maybe? Yeah. And that's total combined, right? So that means 1,000 people maybe saw, if you look at your reach and your impressions, right? Your impressions will be I can't remember which one's higher.
The reach is
lower. The reach is high. Is lower. So it's like these 1,000 people have viewed it, but you maybe have like $1,200 in impressions or 1,200 impressions. So 200 of those people have seen it twice.
So it's been a week because we did it last Tuesday. And so it has 3,400 impressions.
Okay. So most of those people have seen it twice. When we kick off a campaign, you really got to put some dollars behind it. Now that you have a winning ad, and that might be $25 a day, right? Like you don't have to go full tilt and be like, I'm going to spend $300 a day. Like obviously Facebook loves it when you put bigger money behind, but it's like, you do want to get some traction. And at $5 a day, that's like super low brand awareness. 3,500 people, that means 500 people a day have scrolled past it, right? Yeah. You're not expecting like that's going to stop the scroll for every single person that has seen it. And the 500 people a day, maybe a few of those have seen it 3 or 4 times, right? And so when you start thinking about the metrics in that space, it's like, oh, now I get it, right? Because think about when you get on your phone and you're on Facebook and you're just like half the time with ads, you're like, get out of the way. I want to talk to my friend, or I'm going to go buy those jeans. If it's for a luxury service, like I get tons of ads from like Dior for makeup and Coach and this jewelry and blah, 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 blah. Dolce & Gabbana is a big one that I see constantly, but I am not going to go to their landing page every single time I see the ad. And the same is true for yours. So you have to treat it like it's not the winning ticket. It's just the fastest way to expand your reach. But it takes you actually putting advertising dollars out behind it because $5 a day isn't going to do much of anything.
Yeah. There like a lot of like having to remember everything and like bring myself back down to earth on like how things should go.
Most creatives are ADHD. And I was talking with Jen Swedeen recently about, which causes, is it a chicken or the egg kind of situation, right? It was interesting because she was like, look, ADHD, autism, all of those things, like it's literally just our brains are different, like physically. And as business owners, creative business owners, we are very multifaceted. And that runs the gamut, man. Like, We have big corporations, just like you were saying, like Cartier and Tiffany and, Dolce and Gabbana and Versace and, the list goes on. There is a lead designer, but there are teams of people under them. Solopreneurs don't really have that luxury. Solopreneurs are marketing, accountant, headhunter, networker, photographer, stylist, sweeper, and janitor, right? Like so many different aspects of our job. And when you really start looking at a task list, like building the landing page for your campaign, right? That's not like, okay, I got that done in 20 minutes. All right, next, right? Like you spent some time like building out that copy, making sure the formatting was right, looking at it, coming back and looking at it with fresh eyes, making sure that contact form was great, the way you wanted it to be. Like that alone, that project typically for larger companies will take a team of people. They can turn it on and turn it off and put $1,000 behind a Facebook ad for a day and like run off to the races. But as a solopreneur, you're looking at it going, God, that was so much work. It has to work. It has to work. It has to work. Why isn't it working? So now it's the drop and give me 20 on other ways you can drive people to that space. Like, yes, advertising dollars. Cash is always king, right? But what other ways can you share about it with people, right? You've got that event coming up. You organized and negotiated your sponsorship really well. Like, I love seeing that when you're like, I'm going to be a sponsor. I'm going to get the emails. Like, I worked it out. That's a rinse and repeat, baby. How many more of those events can you sponsor?
Yeah. And because it is it's targeted for mothers. So I was like, this couldn't be any more aligned with the people that need to see this. Yeah. So, but yeah. And then I'm going to have the signups and everything for them to like, just ready for them to fill out if they want to inquire through the thing there too. So.
Are you taking wall art with you?
I'm debating because I do have a 24 by 36 and it's the one of me and my daughter with like the flowing thing. So I was like, that would be great. I just don't know how much space they're giving me.
So talk to me about what the rest of this year looks like for you. You've had a pretty decent Q1, like a few ups and downs, but like you really kind of found your footing. If you were to turn around in January of 2025 and been like, oh my God, it was such a good year, what happened?
Wow. 4 clients a month would be like perfect. And I would love for this motherhood thing to take off and do really well. And then I wanted to, after that, like move into like the Christmas setups for families. And then there's some boudoir in there. I have a lot of people contacting me for boudoir. So like mix that in there too. So yeah, I love, and then just all the creativeness in it. So I love when sessions turn into like collaborations with an idea and I can take a thing and like spin off on it versus like a little cookie cutter, like, okay, we're here. So yeah, just like a lot of
there is some cookie cut that goes into systemization, but if you can streamline your systems to support the creativity instead of replace it, that's really when kind of you get that magic merger, right? Because you've created the variety that they're looking for, and you've also like gotten to flex, your creative process and bring all of those things together. Like, oh, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. Well, what would you say has been your biggest challenge? Like, not like a current challenge that you're facing, but something where like maybe you failed forward or you looked at and you were like, this was way harder than I ever thought it would be. Like for somebody who's listening and is, either transitioning from wedding into portrait or looking at starting a portrait business, what was unexpectedly challenging for you? Or maybe it was expected and you were just like, I'm going to deal with it and get through it. What was that for you?
Yeah, just confidence and talking to people. So a big problem that I had with weddings is I just don't like talking to people. I can show up to somewhere and you wouldn't even know that you would leave and be like, oh, she was there. Like never saw her, didn't talk to her. Like, but yeah, so I I just always like didn't exist. I was always too afraid of being annoying or having people judge me. So I'm like, I spent so much time being like, I'm a photographer, please hire me, but I'm not going to tell you that like what I even do.
So where has that confidence come from?
I think like finding my style in the studio because I just got to a point and I was like, this is what I was always meant to do. Yeah. So once I figured that out and then nailing down the client process. So right before I got your like consultation guide in the emails, I was like, I realized like, okay, I have this part that I feel like I can give people an amazing thing. But now it's the client process because I'm very much like, I want to give you the most amazing experience ever. And I'm like, but I'm not confident that I'm giving you the most amazing experience. So I don't want to fail at that. So I'm not going to tell you or like put it out there that much. So once I got those and like my CRM and really nailed it out and like got the client process, I was like, oh my gosh, I can tell everybody now. Like that was like the last unlock to being able to like go out and tell everybody and show up in the rooms. And I went to an event, like a gathering for Marketing Sunday. And I realized like my confidence in my business since doing that has like turned me into a 180. I was like, before you wouldn't know I even existed. And then I was like commanding the space. Everybody was looking at me and I'm like, yeah, and this and that. And why would you do this? And don't you wish that person would have asked you this question? Like that's like the end goal. Cause one girl was talking about her wedding and like, oh, well, this part didn't end up like my pictures were here. And I was like, but don't you wish they would have asked you that from the beginning? Like your priority in the end product? She's like, yeah. So I'm just like, and everybody's like, yes, go for it. I'm like, oh, hi, who am I?
I need a mirror because I do not recognize this person.
Yes.
Well, even Amanda 3 months ago was like,
you wouldn't know I was on the Zoom calls.
Yeah. Like group call, what? And just like, and like when you were challenged with something, you didn't have a problem like asking about it and being like, look, this is a situation. I don't know what the hell is going on. Right. But outside of like you marketing yourself and connecting with people out in the community, like knowing what it is that you're offering them, understanding and appreciating the impact that each of those pillars of that client process has for them has also transformed your confidence level and your ability to speak about what you do. Like that is night and day.
Yeah, it's dramatic.
Congratulations. That's a huge win. Like you watch the next few months is going to be like, skrr.
Yeah.
Because that confidence is what people are attracted to. That's what magnetizes them to you.
Yeah, especially going from like, oh, several months ago, people didn't know I existed to like, I'm going to be talking on a stage in a few days.
Okay, so what are you most excited about in your work? Like we've built this confidence, you really fall in love with studio work, you really feel like you're finding your stride in your style. What's most exciting about what it is that you get to do now?
I just feel like just create. I like my whole life. I realized like I always had to dance and cheer and do multiple things. And I had to like when I went to school and I did stuff, I was like, well, I got a model, like we're doing pictures and I'm collaborating with photographers to make things and then learning that. So I'm like, I've always had to just create.
Okay.
So now I feel like I have a lot of the back end business stuff figured out. So now I can set it on creating and I'm really excited to get the studio and explore like all the new options with possible lighting choices and everything because it does have a whole wall of windows. So I'm like, I'm going to have to block out all these windows, but also I want to
have all these windows.
Yeah. What is it like if I open some of them or all of them or
yeah, girl, just get all of the V flats, just all of them. I might have an event. You better have an event.
Yeah.
Are you connected to the chamber?
Not yet. I was trying because I want the ribbon cutting ceremony. Yeah, that is one of my things to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just pay for the membership. It's so cheap
Yeah.
in comparison to lots of other opportunity. And the Western North Carolina, the Asheville Chamber is really quite well connected and super well organized. You know, all of the entrepreneurial focused events that they have going on, like, you know, if it's 800, I don't know how the pricing is for their membership now, but it's like $800 for the year. And that includes a party access to their email list, coming to, you know, 52 events a year. Like, it's kind of a no brainer, even for an accumulator.
It's hard. It's hard. But yeah, is that like the lowest one? I look at it and then I'm like, oh, which one do I want? And I always have to be like, I'm gonna get the best one, but I'm not there yet. So therefore I'm just like not gonna do it kind of person. So I'm like all or nothing and I gotta quit. I've had to reel myself in the last couple months with things to be like, it's okay. I can get this one. I don't have to like be the top of everything.
The purpose of marketing is to do what? Get attention, right? And the purpose of advertising is what?
To be seen.
To turn $1 into 20.
Right. Yes.
Right. So when we're looking, like, of course you want to come in and kind of set a budget and appreciate the budget for the year and understand like what money is going where. Right. But for things that don't necessarily have a quantifiable ROI, like a membership to the chamber, something like BNI would have a quantifiable ROI because they track everything, right? Like how many leads did you get? How many leads did you bring in? How many of those leads turned into business for you? Like, right? All of that is quantifiable. But a membership with something like the chamber really isn't until you start to appreciate the relationships you build from it, right? So getting the ribbon cutting, getting that underway, and going to, you know, a breakfast meeting every week and an afternoon thing every other week, right? Okay, well, now there's events. That's costing you even $1,000 a year, right? That ROI, just your network growth is the ROI. It's not quite measurable the same way, but it's hugely valuable. You're on the right track, though. I'm excited. This is going to be a fun year for you.
Yeah. The one group I'm in, I've been in it about 2.5 years now. And I realized the other day, like, oh, I got this event because like a chain of events from being in that group. So I'm like, oh, it took all this time. Like nothing is immediate.
Right.
But yeah, you're like, oh, all of this year's opportunities have come through for like a lot of them through that. So.
Well, and understand, you know, photographers really like, how many of you listening right now are in the car and driving and putting off that networking event, doing any networking at all, and chalking it up to you being too busy? Right. Like, I know I've done it. Like, I can't go to that today. Like, maybe I'll try again next week. Like, la, 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 la. The longer it takes you to get involved into your community, the longer it's going to take for you to start seeing those results. And we can have Facebook ads and they can support us. Like if you want to throw $1,500 a week at Facebook ads, go for it. But you can also like become connected to the people in your community that will celebrate with you, that will hold your hand when things are challenging, that will help you grow your business. And when all of those relationships and then your paid marketing work in concert together, that's when it's time to start scaling. And you go from that 5 to 10K space every month into that 20K plus. And when we can get to that 20K plus, you want to talk about confidence now. Look out. You feel like a superhero at 20. So Amanda, where can people find you online?
So you can find me at flaminglilystudios.com and on Facebook and Instagram at Flaming Lily Studios.
That's terrific. And when we connect on Jan 1 of 2025 and talk about how amazing this year was, what's the most important thing that you're excited about?
Creating.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you so very much and so excited to watch you thrive, because as you create and create with joy and from that space of just love for it, you watch your business. It will explode.
Yeah. And thank you so much. So much is like because of you and your education. So thank you.
Aw, thank you so much. And we just made my day.